be incredibly difficult, but those aren't my decisions to make. We're not like, the EFF where I can just come here and pronounce, for the entire party. We have structures in the party. We will make those inputs to those structures, and a decision will be taken. But I think we shouldn't get...
Let's not be too simplistic about it. What the Deputy President is saying, without saying it, is that currently those parties who are in coalition government don't have a program, both economic program, government program at all levels. In other words...
Observed leaders who, despite the incredibly complicated difficulties South Africa faces, being absolutely convinced that only themselves understand how South Africa works. And it is only them that have the solution on how best to tackle all of South Africa's complexities. This is simply unfortunate.
Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, is an ANC via the Treasury, what you can call economic policy statement. The DA has rejected that, meaning that the DA is saying, in admission, there is no agreement in a way forward. And that finds itself and it manifests in an economic policy. If you can't agree on an economic policy, you can't agree on anything else, because everything else that you are going to do as government trickles down from an economic policy, which is fundamentally dependent on the kind of budget that you have. So the Deputy President...
Investment climate and to create many more jobs for people. And there are obvious things, rational things that have to be done to achieve that. Those are easily doable. And that is what we, as your largest coalition partner, the one that holds the balance of power in Parliament, that is what we require from you. And if you don't want to do that, we have muscle to ensure that we can get this economy growing. And that's what we're doing.
Kind of budget that you have. So the Deputy President today, what he has done is giving us an indication that in his view, there is no government of national unity. And we need to listen to that point. We don't need to go and misrepresent his views. We can, of course, explain other things, but let's first appreciate the significance of what he has said. There is no agreement. There's no agreement on the economic policy, and therefore, he doesn't see how they're going to move forward together.
The first party would have to have its head chopped off for that is the ANC, of course, because they went behind the GNU's back and started negotiating with a raft of parties that aren't in the GNU. But let me say that we do have rules. The statement of intent is our rules framework that we have always strictly abided by, and that the ANC has ignored from day one.
We're going to move forward together. And the EFF has been correct from the beginning in characterizing this arrangement of the DA and the ANC that they will not be able to develop a coordinated and coherent economic program, because they may agree on some neoliberal tenets of how they want the economy to look, meaning the involvement of the private sector, as the SCCP has indicated in the past. But the bottom line is that they don't see the kind of constituency that they need to service in the same way. The DA is not looking at black people as participating mainly in the economy, but the ANC is trying to bring in black people to participate in the economy. But they are not willing to change the structure of the economy itself, which is impossible, meaning that...
Well, the first point is that on all of the acts that you spoke about, those were essentially done deals. They were done deals in the 6th Parliament. All they needed was the signature of the president. And when you're in a situation like that, it's difficult to have leverage. The budget is the first issue on which the ANC has needed our votes in Parliament, and that gives us real leverage. Now, we have been absolutely committed to the GNU, but from the beginning we...
Meaning that you can then not have a coordinated and coherent program. And the current breakdown that we're seeing now, it's simply because there is no coherent economic program between the two. I mean, the other parties you can talk about, Action SA, IFP, and I mean, they don't even have a stake in this conversation within cabinet and the GNU. They're just following through with their small numbers to support seemingly this marriage. But the bottom line is that if you can't have an economic program between the ANC and the DA, you don't have government.
With lies. we have an agreement, a GNU agreement with the ANC and some other parties. We haven't been unfaithful to this marriage. We have never sought support or backroom negotiations with people who are not part of the GNU. We've always been loyal to the GNU. We've always raised our differences within the GNU, and we've always sought solutions within the GNU. The people who went behind the back of the GNU to try and get support from other parties who are not in the GNU to be able to pass the fiscal framework was the ANC. Mm-hmm. And they're the people who have gone outside of the framework of the GNU and the statement of intent.